Kate Jackson has finally broken her silence, and what she reveals about Farrah Fawcett and Jaclyn Smith will shock every fan of Charlie's Angels. For years, she was seen as the steady one, the serious actress among the beauty and the icon. But even in those early days, Kate knew the image the world adored was hiding fractures that no one wanted to admit. Because while Farrah's star was burning brighter than anyone imagined, and Jaclyn was quietly aligning herself with producers, Kate felt herself slipping further into the shadows. She smiled for the cameras, played her role as the smart angel, and let the world believe in the illusion of sisterhood. Yet behind the scenes, she carried a truth that weighed heavier with every season. Now, decades later, Kate reveals what really happened. The rivalries, the betrayals, the distance that even time could not heal. Was their friendship ever real, or was it always a Hollywood illusion? And why is Kate choosing to reveal the truth now, after so many years of silence? When Charlie's Angels first came together in 1976, television executives had little faith it would last. The concept sounded simple: three beautiful women fighting crime under the mysterious guidance of a disembodied voice. But in an era when primetime dramas were still dominated by male leads, the idea of women carrying an entire show felt risky. For Kate Jackson, however, the role of Sabrina Duncan seemed like an opportunity to prove herself. She had come off The Rookies with solid credibility and was determined to be more than just another pretty face on television. Casting quickly revealed the divide in how the Angels were positioned. Farrah Fawcett was chosen for her stunning looks and charisma. Jaclyn Smith, with her soft elegance, was brought in as the classic beauty, and Kate was pegged as the serious actress, the one who would give the show depth. Producers marketed this balance as intentional: brains, beauty, and glamour, but Kate could already sense the imbalance. She was expected to carry the dramatic weight, yet it was clear Farrah's poster-perfect smile would dominate the spotlight. From the very beginning, the media leaned into the Farrah frenzy. Magazine covers featured her before the show even premiered, plastering her image on walls, dorm rooms, and billboards across America. Kate noticed the shift immediately. While she gave interviews about scripts and storylines, journalists only wanted to ask about Farrah's hair, her teeth, her figure. Jaclyn, too, was often overlooked, though her polished charm meant she slipped into interviews with a kind of grace Kate struggled to summon. What many didn't realize was how fast the spotlight tilted. ABC's promotion strategy became clear. Charlie's Angels was going to be Farrah Fawcett's show, with Kate and Jaclyn playing supporting roles in the background. For someone who had joined believing this would be an ensemble project, Kate felt invisible. And worse, she felt silenced. Whenever she voiced concerns about dialogue or character depth, producers brushed them aside. She was told to trust the formula: sex appeal first, storytelling second. Still, in those early days, Kate pushed forward. She memorized lines, crafted Sabrina into a figure of quiet authority, and tried to believe that audiences would see beyond the posters. But even she admits now that cracks were forming long before the show became a cultural phenomenon. Farrah's charisma was undeniable. Jaclyn was quietly aligning herself with the studio, and Kate felt her position slipping away. She would later confess that the imbalance in casting wasn't just professional, it planted the seeds of personal. And though the cameras made it look like harmony, Kate already sensed betrayal. What she didn't share then was that Farrah and Jaclyn were not only shaping their own images, they were shaping hers too, in ways she could never control. By the end of Charlie's Angels' first season, Farrah Fawcett was no longer just a television actress. She was a cultural phenomenon. The famous red swimsuit poster, released before the show even aired, sold millions of copies and became the most iconic pinup of the 1970s. Suddenly, Charlie's Angels wasn't just a show about three women solving crimes. It was the Farrah Fawcett show, whether anyone on set admitted it or not. For Kate Jackson, the shift was impossible to ignore. Storylines began bending toward Jill Monroe, Farrah's character. Directors framed her in more glamorous shots, producers leaned into her natural charisma, and fan letters poured in by the thousands with Farrah's name on them. Kate was still seen as the serious actress, the one anchoring the scripts with credibility, but it was clear to her that credibility didn't sell posters, stardom did, and Farrah had it in spades. Even Jaclyn Smith, who had joined the series with little experience compared to Kate, began to feel the ripple effects. While Jaclyn was known for her elegance and natural poise, she too was overshadowed by Farrah's media dominance. Yet unlike Kate, Jaclyn accepted her place in the hierarchy. She played the peacemaker on set, smiled through interviews, and often stood beside Farrah in photo shoots, knowing full well who the public wanted to see in the middle. Kate, however, couldn't ignore the consequences. She had entered the show believing she would be its backbone, the one with acting experience and dramatic credibility. Instead, she was watching her work drowned out by a tidal wave of celebrity. She later admitted that every magazine cover featuring Farrah felt like another reminder of her own invisibility. Reporters no longer asked about her thoughts on the scripts or her approach to the role. They asked what it was like to work with Farrah. The tension deepened as Farrah's outside career opportunities exploded. Offers for film roles, commercials, and endorsements piled up, and it was clear she was no longer fully invested in the series. Kate began noticing Farrah arriving late to set or missing rehearsals, her focus drifting to the bigger stage Hollywood was offering. To the public, Farrah's decision to chase new opportunities looked bold and glamorous. To Kate, it felt like abandonment. What hurt most was how little the studio seemed to care. ABC executives, thrilled with the attention Farrah brought to the network, tolerated her absences and excused her behavior. Kate realized she was playing by a different set of rules. She was expected to show up, deliver, and keep the production stable, while Farrah was free to follow her own ambitions. Kate would later reveal that she saw Farrah's exit coming long before anyone else did. She knew the show couldn't hold on to someone whose fame had already outgrown its format. Yet, the truth she rarely spoke aloud was this: her resentment wasn't just about Farrah leaving. It was about being left behind, overshadowed not only by a co-star's success, but by a system that never valued her the same way. But Farrah wasn't the only source of pain. Kate would soon realize that the quiet grace of Jaclyn Smith concealed its own kind of betrayal. While Farrah's departure was dramatic and public, the strain between Kate Jackson and Jaclyn Smith was quieter, more personal, and in many ways more painful. To the outside world, Jaclyn was the embodiment of grace, the one who kept peace on the set, while Farrah chased stardom, and Kate carried the dramatic weight. But Kate's truth was far more complicated. From the earliest days of Charlie's Angels, Jaclyn maintained a strong relationship with producers, particularly Aaron Spelling. She had a natural ability to align herself with the people in power, which gave her a certain protection on set. Whenever creative disagreements arose about storylines, costumes, or how much screen time each angel received, Kate often found herself isolated. Jaclyn rarely spoke up on her behalf, even when Kate expected support. Instead, Jaclyn often chose silence, a silence that worked in her favor but left Kate feeling sidelined. What made this dynamic more difficult was that Kate had entered the series believing she and Jaclyn could form a real friendship. Unlike Farrah, who was already being pulled in 100 directions by her sudden fame, Jaclyn seemed steady, approachable, and focused. For a time, Kate thought she had found an ally, but as the seasons wore on, she noticed how Jaclyn positioned herself differently, never clashing with producers, always presenting herself as the good angel who kept harmony. The result was that Jaclyn quietly gained favor, while Kate was seen as the difficult one whenever she voiced concerns. Kate later admitted this unspoken divide cut deeper than Farrah's exit. With Farrah, the betrayal had been obvious. She left the show and pursued fame. With Jaclyn, it was more subtle. It was the absence of support, the decision to remain neutral when Kate needed solidarity most. Over time, those small silences became louder than words. To Kate, it felt like Jaclyn was choosing the studio over their bond as co-stars. Fans watching the show never saw any of this. On screen, the chemistry between the angels looked flawless. Kate and Jaclyn shared scenes filled with warmth and camaraderie, a sisterhood millions of viewers believed in. But off-camera, Kate carried the sting of exclusion. She later confessed that she often went home after long filming days wondering why Jaclyn never stood beside her during disputes, why she always seemed to step back instead of stepping in. It wasn't open conflict. There were no screaming matches or dramatic fallouts. Instead, it was something far colder: distance. Jaclyn's careful neutrality left Kate feeling like she was fighting battles alone, while her co-star quietly benefited from staying in the good graces of everyone around her. That kind of betrayal, Kate revealed years later, was harder to forgive than Farrah's bold decision to leave. And when Farrah finally did walk away, that fragile balance shattered completely, leaving Kate to carry the weight of the show, and the weight of disappointment she never truly escaped. When Farrah Fawcett announced she was leaving Charlie's Angels after just one season, the news hit Hollywood like an earthquake. The official story was polished. Farrah wanted to pursue film roles, expand her career, and take control of her future. To fans, it sounded bold and glamorous, the kind of move only a true star could make. But to Kate Jackson, the departure carried a very different weight. Behind the scenes, the cracks had been visible for months. Farrah's rising fame meant she was increasingly absent from set, often negotiating contracts and juggling offers while production waited. While the network and producers tolerated it, thrilled by the attention she brought, Kate saw it as abandonment. She had worked tirelessly to keep the show grounded, to make Sabrina Duncan a character with intelligence and substance. And now, just as the series had become a global hit, one of its cornerstones was walking away. Jaclyn Smith's reaction only deepened Kate's frustration. In public, Jaclyn praised Farrah's decision, telling reporters she supported her friend's ambitions. In private, Jaclyn seemed quietly relieved. With Farrah gone, Jaclyn stepped into more storylines, her character given more depth and screen presence than before. For Kate, it was another reminder of the shifting balance. She was carrying the responsibility of the show, yet the rewards were falling to someone else. What hurt most was how Farrah's exit reshaped the narrative of Charlie's Angels. Instead of celebrating the trio as an ensemble, the press framed the story around Farrah's boldness and Jaclyn's grace. Kate was left cast as the serious one who kept things together, a label that diminished her contributions while elevating the others. She later admitted that she felt erased from the mythology of the show, despite being there through its most turbulent changes. Farrah's decision also forced Kate into an exhausting new role. With replacements being cast to fill the empty spot, Kate suddenly became the stabilizer of the franchise. New actresses were compared to Farrah. Jaclyn was seen as the show's enduring beauty, and Kate was left to shoulder the pressure of credibility once again. She carried it with professionalism, but inside she was tired. Tired of fighting to be heard, tired of being overlooked, and tired of carrying burdens no one else seemed to acknowledge. Years later, Kate revealed her truth. Farrah's departure wasn't just about career choices. It was a turning point that cemented her sense of betrayal. She respected Farrah's ambition, but she couldn't ignore the hurt of being left behind, especially when she had given so much to make the show work. To Kate, the exit wasn't glamorous. It was abandonment dressed up as empowerment. Yet even after Farrah walked away, the story wasn't finished. What came next wasn't reconciliation, but a quieter rivalry that would haunt their relationships for decades. After Farrah's exit, the image of the Angels shifted. The show continued with new cast members, and Jaclyn Smith became the one constant presence alongside Kate. To the public, the bond between the original three women seemed unbroken. Whenever reunions or press features brought them back together, fans assumed the friendships had survived fame, rivalries, and departures. Smiling photographs gave the illusion of unity, but Kate Jackson knew better. She later admitted that those public appearances were mostly performance. Farrah, though warm on the surface, kept her distance. Jaclyn, ever the peacemaker, played her role flawlessly, ensuring no tension showed in front of cameras. Yet underneath the polished smiles, Kate felt the weight of unresolved fractures. She could stand beside them for a photograph, but she knew the closeness fans imagined was no longer real. There were moments when reconciliation seemed possible. Farrah occasionally reached out, extending gestures of kindness. A phone call here, a shared laugh during an interview there. But Kate confessed that these moments felt fleeting, like a show of friendship rather than its reality. They never confronted the deeper issues, the resentment, the betrayals, the silences. Instead, they danced around them, keeping their connection shallow and safe. Jaclyn's position complicated things further. By remaining loyal to Aaron Spelling and the studio that created Charlie's Angels, she remained firmly within Hollywood's inner circle. For Kate, who had walked away from the show after 3 seasons, and who often spoke her mind about the industry's compromises, this created more distance. Kate once described feeling like the outsider in a trio that the world still insisted was inseparable. Fans, of course, were none the wiser. When the Angels reunited for charity events, photo spreads, or nostalgic television specials, the chemistry looked as radiant as ever. Millions still saw them as sisters bonded by history. But in Kate's memory, these appearances were tinged with a quiet sadness. They weren't a celebration of lasting friendship. They were a reminder of what had been lost. Kate would later reflect that Hollywood itself shaped these strained bonds. The constant pressure to perform, not just on screen but off, forced them to maintain appearances that masked reality. Fame demanded unity, even when unity didn't exist. And so Kate smiled, played her part, and let the myth of Charlie's Angels endure, even as she knew the truth was very different. But the illusion couldn't last forever. When tragedy struck and Farrah's health failed, the distance between them was tested in ways that forced Kate to confront everything she had avoided for decades. In 2006, news broke that Farrah Fawcett had been diagnosed with cancer. For millions of fans, it was a heartbreaking revelation. The woman who had once symbolized unshakable beauty and vitality was suddenly facing the most human and fragile of battles. To Kate Jackson, the news carried a weight that went far beyond headlines. She later admitted that hearing of Farrah's illness stirred emotions she had long buried: grief, regret, and the ache of unfinished conversations. Kate herself had faced her own health struggles years earlier, surviving 2 separate battles with breast cancer. She understood the terror, the exhaustion, and the uncertainty that came with each diagnosis. More than most, she knew what Farrah was enduring. Yet despite this shared experience, Kate did not step into the public role of supportive friend. Instead, she kept her distance, choosing silence where fans expected visible solidarity. That silence contrasted sharply with Jaclyn Smith. Jaclyn appeared in interviews, speaking warmly of Farrah's courage, standing by her side in public moments, and becoming a symbol of loyalty. For Kate, this was another painful reminder of the distance that had grown between them. She may have felt the same compassion, the same sadness, but she did not express it in ways the world could see, and that absence became its own truth, a reflection of how fractured their bond had become. Farrah's illness became a global story, culminating in her harrowing documentary Farrah's Story, which offered the world an unfiltered view of her struggle. Millions watched as the once unshakable angel confronted her mortality. Kate admitted later that seeing Farrah in such a vulnerable state broke her heart. This wasn't the glamorous star the public had idolized. It was a woman stripped of defenses, fighting with extraordinary bravery against impossible odds. What haunted Kate most was the knowledge that time had run out for real reconciliation. Whatever truths remained unspoken between them, whatever wounds had been left unhealed, were now permanent. Farrah passed away in 2009 at the age of 62, leaving behind a legacy of beauty, courage, and enduring cultural impact. But for Kate, her death was more than a public loss. It was the final reminder of a friendship that had never truly been repaired. In later interviews, Kate's reflections carried the weight of regret. She acknowledged that Farrah had been more fragile than anyone realized, even at the height of her fame. Behind the blinding smile and the whirlwind of attention was a woman who longed for more than the image forced upon her. Kate recognized that truth too late, admitting that the distance between them had been sustained by pride and silence more than necessity. And if Farrah's illness forced Kate to confront her regrets, Jaclyn's role in all of it remained just as complicated. Why did Kate still struggle with Jaclyn's silence? And why, after all these years, does that relationship still haunt her the most? As the years passed and the spotlight faded, Kate Jackson began to reflect more openly on her time as one of television's most iconic angels. She had left Hollywood behind for a quieter life, battling her own health challenges and choosing distance from the industry that once defined her. From that place of perspective, she finally admitted what she had kept hidden for decades, that the bond between her, Farrah Fawcett, and Jaclyn Smith was never as simple as the posters made it seem. For Kate, Charlie's Angels had been both a gift and a burden. It gave her worldwide recognition, yet it also trapped her in a role she didn't fully control. She was cast as the smart angel, the serious one, the anchor. But that label became a cage, locking her into expectations while Farrah was celebrated as the star and Jaclyn was adored as the beauty. The show launched all three into history, but Kate carried away a far more complicated legacy, one filled with admiration, resentment, and unspoken disappointment. Farrah's death only deepened those reflections. Kate spoke with compassion about her former co-star, acknowledging her bravery, but also revealing her regret that they never truly reconciled. She admitted she had wanted to tell Farrah that she admired her courage, that she understood the loneliness behind the glamour, and that she wished their friendship had survived the pressures of fame. But time, as Kate came to accept, had stolen that chance. Her feelings toward Jaclyn remained even more conflicted. Unlike Farrah, Jaclyn had never left. She remained the consistent angel, the public face of loyalty. Yet to Kate, that loyalty always seemed directed more toward the producers and the brand than toward her. Decades later, she admitted that Jaclyn's silence, her refusal to take sides, her decision to maintain harmony at all costs, was its own form of betrayal. Kate had wanted a partner in her struggles, not just a colleague willing to keep the peace. Looking back, Kate revealed the truth fans had never seen, that the Angels' sisterhood was real, but fractured. There were moments of laughter, moments of connection, and a history that no one could take away. But there was also distance, jealousy, and regret woven through it all. For Kate, telling that truth was not about bitterness, it was about honesty. She wanted fans to understand that behind the glamour was a human story, one filled with complexity and pain as much as success and fame. In the end, Kate's reflection is as haunting as it is revealing. She admits she still wonders what might have been different if pride had been set aside, if friendships had been repaired, if the truth had been spoken sooner. And she leaves fans with questions that linger even now. Were the Angels ever truly united? Or was their bond always destined to be broken by fame? And what does it mean when the myth outlives the reality? Kate Jackson's revelations peel back the glossy image of Charlie's Angels and expose the fragile reality beneath. For decades, fans believed in the perfect sisterhood of three glamorous women who seemed untouchable. But Kate's truth reminds us that fame is never simple. It can elevate, divide, and ultimately leave even the closest bonds fractured. Farrah Fawcett became a global icon, her star burning brighter than anyone imagined. But the cost was a friendship that faded before it could heal. Jaclyn Smith stood as the enduring angel, admired for her grace, yet her silence left wounds Kate still carries. And Kate herself, always seen as the strong one, finally admits the pain of being overlooked, overshadowed, and left behind. In the end, their story isn't just about television history, it's about what happens when ambition, loyalty, and silence collide. It's about the regrets we hold on to and the words we never say until it's too late. For Kate Jackson, speaking now is more than revelation, it is closure. For more emotional stories, check out this video.